Rain was still dripping from the ends of my gray coat onto the polished white tile off his kitchen in Austin, Texas. My shoes were soaked. My hair had flattened against my cheeks. My mascara had run just enough to make me look as tired as I felt. I had driven 45 minutes through a storm with a cardboard box of office belongings in my trunk and a sentence stuck behind my teeth. After 18 years as a senior accountant at a private investment firm, I had been let go. Not because I had failed. Not because I had made some terrible mistake. A merger had swallowed half our department, and I had walked out carrying my frame certification, a coffee mug, and the kind of humiliation that makes your hands feel cold. I had imagined my son, Ethan, would stand up when I told him. I had imagined he would say, "Mom, sit down. Tell me what happened." I had imagined his wife, Lauren, would stop chopping vegetables and maybe offer me a towel. Instead, Ethan shut his laptop with a slow, irritated click. "What exactly does let go mean?" he asked. Lauren placed the knife on the cutting board, wiped her hands in a linen towel, and looked at me with the polite patience people use on customer service calls. "It means I don't work for Whitaker Lane anymore," I said. "They give him 3 months of severance. I'll start looking right away." For a second, I held on to hope. I saw him at 8 years old, asleep on the couch with a fever, his little hand gripping me sleeve because he was afraid I would leave the room. I saw him at 17, standing beside our used Honda, pretending not to cry when I told him I had sold it so I could cover the rest of his private school tuition. I saw him at 25, getting his white coat, whispering, "I wouldn't be here without you, Mom." Then his eyes moved past my face and landed somewhere near the kitchen island, where Lauren kept their stack of household bills in a leather tray. "What about the mortgage?" he asked. "The property taxes? My fellowship loans?" We had a plan. I blinked. I didn't plan to lose my job. "Responsible adults have backups, Caroline," she said. "Do you have real savings, or just enough to cover your personal expenses for a few months?" I almost laughed. If only they knew. In a private account Ethan had never seen, I had investments he had built quietly for more than 20 years. I owned 3 rental condos downtown, a lake house outside Marble Falls, and a portfolio my old boss, Marcus Bell, had helped me grow after my husband died. In total, after taxes and assets, I was worth a little over $3,100,000. And yes, part of that house was mine. I had paid the down payment as a wedding gift. I had covered temporary mortgage gaps during Ethan's residency. I had quietly paid off a chunk of Lauren's credit card debt when she lost her marketing job during the pandemic, because Ethan had begged me not to embarrass her. Every month, it transferred money toward their bills, and they called it helping Mom feel useful. I had let them call it that. That was my mistake. "I have some savings," I said. "Some?" Lauren's mouth tightened. "Ethan and I are trying to have a baby. We can't support a third adult who isn't contributing." I looked around the kitchen. The marble counters. The German espresso machine. The brass pendant lights. The walk-in pantry Lauren had posted on Instagram with the caption, "Blessed to build a home with my best friend." I had helped build that home. I had just been foolish enough to do it quietly. "I have contributed here," I said. "Yes, Mom, you have helped. But that was when you had income. Now we have to be practical." Lauren opened the drawer beside the sink and pulled out a manila folder. My stomach tightened before I knew why. "My mother spoke with the director at Silver Oaks Senior Living," Lauren said. "It's outside San Antonio. They need a live-in housekeeping assistant. The pay isn't great, but they provide a room and meals." The kitchen seemed to tilt. "You want me to work as housekeeping in a nursing home?" "It's an assisted living community," Lauren corrected. "And it would solve your housing problem." "My housing problem?" Ethan looked down. "Mom, if you're not going to contribute, you can't stay here indefinitely." "I've been here 10 months, I said. "You asked me to move in after your surgery because Lauren was traveling for work. And we appreciate that," Lauren said quickly. "But the situation has changed." Ethan finally looked at me again. "We're giving you 1 week to make arrangements." 1 week. After 58 years of living, 30 years off motherhood, 12 years of widowhood, and a lifetime of putting his needs above my own, my only child gave me 7 days to disappear. My phone buzzed in my purse. I did not reach for it right away. I was afraid if I moved, something inside me would crack loud enough for them to hear. It buzzed again. I pulled it out. "Marcus." His message glowed on the screen. "Northbridge Capital requested you personally. I'm leaving Whitaker Lane and opening Bell and Hart Advisory. I want you as managing partner. Double me tonight." For a moment, the rain against the window sounded far away. I locked the phone and slid it back into my purse. Ethan mistook my silence for defeat. People my age. I stared at my son and saw, for the first time, not the little boy I had rescued from nightmares, not the teenager I had cheered for from bleachers, not the doctor I had sacrificed for. I saw a grown man measuring his mother's value by her usefulness. You're right about one thing, I said. Lauren lifted her chin. What's that? I need to take responsibility for myself. Lauren's expression eased. She thought she had won. So you'll call Silver Oaks? No, her smile disappeared. Excuse me? I slipped my wet coat off my shoulders and folded it carefully over my arm. My hands were steady now. That surprised me. I'll make other arrangements. What arrangements? Ethan asked. I walked past them toward the stairs. Mom. I kept going. In the guest room, which had once been my room until Lauren redecorated it in beige and removed my framed family photographs because they made the space feel heavy, I opened my laptop. I logged into my private banking portal. Numbers filled the screen. Accounts. Properties. Dividends. Rental deposits. Investment gains. A whole life I had hidden because I had believed love meant making myself smaller. When Ethan's father died, Ethan was 16. He had looked at me with terrified eyes and asked, "Are we going to be okay?" I had said yes, even though I had no idea how. I worked days, then nights. I learned investments. I learned taxes. I learned not to cry until the shower was running. I let him think I needed guidance. I let him think he was protecting me. And over time, protection became control. Control became entitlement. Entitlement became a folder for a housekeeping job at a senior facility. I opened another tab and searched luxury apartments downtown. There it was. A 2-bedroom penthouse overlooking Lady Bird Lake, available immediately. I clicked the listing. I smiled for the first time all day. Then I opened Marcus's message and typed back, "I'm ready." By morning, I had already signed the lease. The leasing agent, a sharp young woman named Tessa, walked me through the penthouse with the careful tone people use when they think an older woman might be overwhelmed by numbers. The building requires 2 months' deposit, she said. Given the urgency, we can discuss payment timing. I'll pay 6 months in advance, I said. She stopped near the kitchen island. 6 months? Yes. I prefer simple transitions. Her entire posture changed. People do that when they discover you are not what they assumed, their voices warm. Their eyes sharpen. They start using your last name. Of course, Mrs. Hart, she said. We can absolutely make that happen. Mrs. Hart. Not mom. Not burden. Not third adult. My name. After I signed, I sat in my car in the underground garage and called Marcus. He answered on the first ring. I was hoping you'd call. Is the offer real? I asked. It's more real today than yesterday. Northbridge wants you, not Whitaker Lane. They asked for you by name after you saved their retirement fund audit last year. I looked at my hands on the steering wheel. At Whitaker, my name was barely on their reports. That was Whitaker's mistake, Marcus said. Not mine. Bell and Hart Advisory. Your name deserves to be on the door. My throat tightened. I can start Monday. Good. And Caroline? Yes? It was always time. I hung up and sat there for a minute, letting the words settle over me. It was always time. That afternoon, I returned to Ethan's house. Lauren had staged an intervention. I knew it the second I walked into the living room and saw her mother, Patricia West, sitting in the armchair by the fireplace with a pearl necklace, crossed ankles, and the same manila folder on her lap. Ethan stood near the mantel, arms folded. Lauren sat beside her mother, lips pressed into a thin line. Caroline, Patricia said, voice dipped in honey. We're all very concerned. I set my purse on the side table. How generous. She smiled as if I had made a joke. At your age, without employment, pride can become dangerous. Silver Oaks is a respectable place. My friend Judith says the staff quarters are clean. The staff quarters, I repeated. Lauren shifted. Mom is trying to help. No, I said. Your mother is enjoying herself. Ethan frowned. That's not fair. I looked at him. Neither is giving your mother 7 days to leave after she tells you she lost her job. Patricia sighed. You must understand, Caroline, young couples have pressures. A mortgage. Future children. Social expectations. You cannot expect to be housed indefinitely because you made sacrifices decades ago. Decades ago. I laughed once softly. Lauren's eyes narrowed. What's funny? I opened my purse and pulled out the lease agreement. Then I placed it on the coffee table, right on top of the Silver Oaks folder. I need staff quarters, I said. I'm moving Saturday. Patricia glanced at the document, then picked it up. Her expression changed first around the eyes. Downtown Austin, she said. Lauren grabbed the papers from her mother. Ethan moved closer. The Ashton? Lauren whispered. This is one of the most expensive buildings in the city. Yes. This says penthouse. Yes. This says 6 months prepaid. Yes. Where did you get that kind of money? From my work. My investments. My properties. My life. Properties. Lauren said. I own 3 condos downtown. I own a lake house. I own a portfolio that has performed better than any of us expected. And starting Monday, I'm managing partner at Bell and Hart Advisory. Patricia's lips parted. For once, she had no immediate insult ready. Ethan took the lease from Lauren and read it again, slower this time. Yuri managing partner? Yes. At Marcus Bell's new firm? I tilted my head. You know Marcus? Everyone in the hospital investment board knows Marcus Bell. Then you know he doesn't hire burdens. That landed. Lauren's face reddened. Why would you hide this from us? I didn't hide it. You never asked. That's not true, Ethan said. Really? I asked. When did you ask about my retirement accounts? My work? My clients? My professional life? When did you ask what I did all day before you decided I was just an aging woman who needed your instructions? His jaw tightened. I helped you. You reviewed cable bills and called it leadership. Lauren stood. That's unfair. You let us think you needed help. Yes, I said. I did. The room went still. I looked at Ethan, and this time I let the whole truth come out. After your father died, you were drowning. You were 16 and trying to become a man overnight. You wanted to protect me because you couldn't save him. So I let you feel useful. I let you explain things I already understood. I let you believe I was less capable than he was, because I thought it healed something in you. Ethan's face shifted. Pain, anger, shame. All fighting at once. But you didn't heal, I said. You learned to confuse love with control. And I taught you that by making myself smaller every time you needed to feel bigger. Patricia set her pearls straight, recovering. That sounds very noble, but it was deceptive. A mother should not manipulate her son. I turned to her. And a mother-in-law should not arrange for another woman to scrub toilets for room and board before asking if she is okay. Patricia's mouth snapped shut. Lauren whispered, nobody said toilets. You didn't they've to. Ethan's voice broke through the silence. Mom, I thought we were helping. He looked down at the lease again. All this time, you had money. All this time, he had a life. Lauren's eyes filled, but I did not rush to comfort her. That old instinct rose inside me, the one that made me smooth every tense moment, soften every harsh word, protect everyone from the consequences of their own behavior. I let it pass. I'll stay at a hotel until Saturday, I said. Tomorrow I'll come for my boxes. I'll arrange movers for the furniture that belongs to me. Lauren blinked. What furniture? The dining table, the guest room dresser, the blue ridge in your office, and the antique mirror in the hallway. Ethan looked up. Those were gifts. No. They were mine. You asked to use them when you moved in because you couldn't furnish the house yet. You said it would be temporary. Lauren looked toward the hallway mirror as if seeing it for the first time. Patricia stood. This is vindictive. No, I said, vindictive would be telling Lauren how much of her credit card debt I paid while she told her friends I was financially dependent on her husband. Lauren went pale, Ethan froze. Patricia turned slowly toward her daughter. What debt? Lauren's voice dropped. Caroline, please. I stared at her. There it was. The first crack in the perfect house. Ethan looked at Lauren. What debt? Lauren gripped the back of the sofa. It was during the pandemic. How much? He asked. She didn't answer. How much, Lauren? I picked up me purse. That's between you two now. Ethan turned to me. Mom. No, I said. It carried secrets to keep peace in this family. Peace built on silence is just a nicer word for rot. I walked toward the front door. Behind me, Patricia's voice sharpened. I opened the door. Oh, Patricia, I said, turning back. You handed me a folder for a live-in housekeeping job. You don't get to complain about bombs. Ethan followed me onto the porch. The storm had passed, but the air still smelled wet and electric. Who are you? He asked. The question should have hurt. Instead, it clarified everything. I'm the same woman who raised you. I said. I just stopped hiding the parts of me that made you uncomfortable. So I left. That night, alone in a hotel room overlooking the highway, I expected to fall apart. I didn't. I ordered room service. I took a long shower. I hung my suit for Monday in the closet. Then I sat on the bed and read through the Bell and Hart partnership documents until midnight. Around 1 a.m., Ethan called. I watched his name glow on the screen. I did not answer. He called again. I silenced the phone. Then Lauren texted. I stared at the message for a long time. How this happened. Passive words. As if cruelty had entered through a window and none of them had opened the door. I set the phone face down. The next morning, I arrived at Ethan's house with movers. That was when the second betrayal surfaced. The movers were wrapping my antique mirror when I heard raised voices from Ethan's study. I should have kept walking. But then I heard my name. She can't just pull support overnight, Lauren said. Ethan sounded exhausted. It wasn't support. It was her money. It was part of the household budget. No, Lauren. It was my mother covering gaps we pretended didn't exist. Patricia's voice sliced through. I stood outside the study door, unseen. Lauren said, Mom, stop. Patricia didn't. I warned you. A widow with no social standing will always cling. Now she has money and wants revenge. You need to talk to an attorney before she takes more. My breath caught. An attorney? Ethan said, takes more? She's taking her own things. And what about the down payment? Patricia demanded. What about money she gave you? What if she claims ownership? I stepped into the doorway. All three of them turned. Patricia's face tightened, but she recovered quickly. Caroline. Ethan looked mortified. Mom, that's not what this is. Then what is it? Patricia lifted her chin. It's prudent to protect family property. Family property, I repeated. Interesting phrase. I walked into the study and opened my folder. Not the Silver Oaks folder. Mine. Inside were copies of wire transfers, gift letters, loan repayment records, and signed notes Ethan had forgotten existed. When I gave you the down payment, I signed it as a gift. When I covered the mortgage during your fellowship, you signed those payments as temporary family loans. You repaid exactly 4 of them, then stopped. I never pushed because you were stressed. When I paid Lauren's debt, she signed a repayment plan. She paid 2 months, then asked me not to tell you. Lauren covered her mouth. Ethan stared at her. 2 months, he said. Patricia's eyes flicked toward Lauren, then back to me. You kept documents on your own family? No, I said. I kept documents because I'm an accountant. Patricia had no answer for that. I placed the folder on Ethan's desk. I am not suing you. I am not demanding repayment today. But if anyone in this room tries to suggest I owe you something, I will correct the record publicly, privately, and legally. Ethan's face went gray. Mom, please. I looked at him. You wanted practical. This is practical. The movers carried the mirror past the study door. For a second, all of us watched it go. It had hung in Ethan's hallway for 6 years. My husband, Daniel, had bought it for me on our 20th anniversary from an antique shop in Santa Fe. Ethan knew that. He had once asked if I could keep it because it made the house feel rooted. Now it was leaving. So was I. By Saturday evening, the penthouse was mine. Not just leased. Mine in spirit. The movers placed my mirror near the entryway where it caught the afternoon light. My books lined the shelves. My framed CPA certificate sat in my new office. The photo of Daniel and me at Lake Tahoe went beside the window. I stood in the living room, surrounded by boxes, and watched the sun lower itself over Austin. For the first time in years, no one needed dinner from me. No one asked me to lower the thermostat. No one corrected how I loaded the dishwasher. No one called my spending cute or my caution old-fashioned or miscellaneous dramatic. The space around me felt unfamiliar. Then I realized what it was. Freedom. On Monday morning, I walked into Bell and Hart Advisory wearing a navy suit, low heels, and the pearl earrings Daniel had given me the year Ethan was born. The office was still half under construction. There were wires near the conference room and boxes stacked against one wall. But on the glass door, in clean black letters, were 2 names. Bell and Hart Advisory. I stopped it in the hallway. Marcus came up beside me with 2 coffees. Looks good, doesn't it? My name is on a door, I said. It should have been on more doors before now. Our first client meeting was with Northbridge Capital at 10. I did not carry coffee. It carried the room. For 2 hours, I walked them through a risk exposure problem their previous consultants had missed. I showed them where their pension fund was bleeding fees, where compliance language had created unnecessary liability, and how restructuring could save millions over 5 years without reducing employee benefits. When I finished, the CEO, a silver-haired man named Grant Ellis, leaned back and smiled. This is why we asked for Mrs. Hart. There are sentences that heal things no apology can reach. That one did. While mine life opened, Ethan's house began closing in. Lauren called 4 days later. I almost didn't answer. But something about the 3rd ring made me pick up. Hello. She inhaled shakily. Caroline, I need to ask you something. If this is about money, call Ethan. It's not. Not exactly. I waited. Did you really pay more than half the household expenses some months? Yes. Ethan didn't explain it that way. How did he explain it? I closed my eyes. There it was again. My sacrifice made decorative. I paid because your household needed it. She was quiet. Then she said, I'm pregnant. How far along? 10 weeks. I sat down slowly at my desk. Congratulations. Her breath broke. I haven't told many people. My mother knows. Ethan knows. But I'm scared. Of what? Of becoming her. I said nothing. Lauren continued, softer now. My mother has always measured people by money, background, appearance. She smiles when people are useful and turns cold when they aren't. I hated it when I was younger. Then somehow I became the woman standing in a kitchen telling you to move into staff housing. There was real shame in her voice, not performance. Not self-pity. Shame. I can't forgive you because you feel guilty, I said. I know. But guilt can become useful if you let it teach you. She cried then, quietly. I'm sorry, Caroline. I looked out the office window at the city. Start by being honest with Ethan. I am. We're fighting a lot. Then fight clean. What does that mean? It means no one uses family money as a weapon. No one uses a baby as leverage. No one lets Patricia speak for the marriage. Lauren gave a wet, humorless laugh. That last one might start a war. Then choose carefully which war raises your child. 2 weeks later, Ethan came to the penthouse. He looked smaller at my door, not physically. He was still tall, broad-shouldered, handsome in the way people trusted doctors to be. But the certainty had drained from him. I let him in. He stepped into the living room and took in the windows, the books, the art, the framed certificates, the photo of Daniel, the antique mirror. He stopped in front of my office shelves. You have a master's degree in finance? Yes. I didn't know that. You never asked. He flinched. I walked to the kitchen. Coffee? Please. We sat across from each other at my round dining table, not the long one he had kept. A new one. Smaller. Mine. He wrapped both hands around the mug. I've been trying to understand why I'm angry, he said. That's honest. When I found out you had money, my first reaction was betrayal. I thought, she lied to me. She let me worry. She let me think I was responsible. I listened. Then Lauren asked me something I couldn't answer. What? She asked if I was angry because you deceived me, or because I couldn't feel superior anymore. The room was quiet. I looked at him for a long time. And? His eyes reddened. And I hated her for asking. Then I hated myself because I knew the answer. I did not rescue him from the silence. He swallowed. The life we built, I said. He nodded, shame crossing his face. The life we built. For the first time, he didn't argue. I'm sorry, he said. Not because you turned out to have money. Not because things got uncomfortable. I'm sorry because when you were hurt, I calculated your cost. That sentence hit me harder than I expected. My son, finally naming the wound. I looked down at my coffee. No apology gives me back that moment in the kitchen. I know. I heard you tell me I had 7 days. I know. I heard your wife suggest I clean rooms for a place to sleep. His voice cracked. I know. And I heard myself almost accept that maybe I deserved it. He looked up, horrified. Mom. That is what humiliation does, Ethan. It walks into your body wearing someone else's voice. He cried then. I don't know how to fix it, he said. You don't fix it. You become someone who would never do it again. He nodded. I want to know you. You know. A small door opened inside me. Not the old door. Not the one that led back to giving too much, hiding too much, forgiving too fast. A new door. We can start there, I said. He wiped his face. Really? Truth first, he repeated. That became our rule. Truth first. The third twist came 1 month later, and it did not come from Ethan. It came from Patricia. Bell and Hart had just been hired to consult on the investment committee for a charitable medical foundation tied to Ethan's hospital. I didn't know Patricia sat in the donor board until I walked into the conference room and saw her at the far end of the table in a cream blazer, pearls shining under fluorescent lights. Her smile froze. Caroline, she said. Patricia. Around the table, introductions began. When Marcus introduced me as managing partner, Patricia's fingers tightened around her pen. I presented our review of the foundation's accounts. At first, it was routine. Endowment performance. Administrative costs. Donor restrictions. Compliance. Then I reached the scholarship fund. A fund Patricia had chaired for 4 years. Numbers tell stories if you know how to listen. And these numbers were whispering something ugly. I clicked to the next slide. There are irregular reimbursement patterns in the scholarship outreach account, I said. Several vendor payments lack proper documentation. Some reimbursements Aperto have been approved by the same individual who submitted them. Patricia's face went white. The board chair, Dr. Henson, leaned forward. Are you suggesting fraud? I'm suggesting the records require immediate internal review before any external filings are made. Patricia laughed too quickly. This is absurd. Outreach work involves informal expenses. Caroline is new to the foundation's culture. I looked directly at her. I am not new to receipts. The room went still. Marcus shifted beside me, but he did not stop me. I continued. $42,600 in undocumented reimbursements over 18 months, $11,800 paid to a vendor whose registered address matches a property owned by a relative of a board member, $7, $400 categorized as scholarship event meals on dates when no events were scheduled. Dr. Henson turned to Patricia. Patricia? She stood so fast her chair scraped. This is a personal attack. No, I said. A personal attack is sending a woman to staff housing because you think she has no power. This is accounting. Every person in that room felt the temperature change. Patricia stared at me with pure hatred. You petty little woman. Dr. Henson's face hardened. Mrs. West, sit down. She did not. You have no idea what I've given to this foundation. I know exactly what you took from it, I said. The review became an investigation. By the end of the week, Patricia resigned from the board. By the end of the month, the foundation quietly demanded repayment to avoid a public scandal. She paid. Not because she was noble. Because the alternative was worse. Lauren called me after it happened. My mother says you ruined her. No, I said, I audited her. She's furious. I imagine so. Lauren was quiet for a long moment. Part of me is ashamed that I feel relieved. Relieved? She has controlled every room I've ever been in. For the first time, someone made her answer a question she couldn't bully away. I leaned back in my chair. That someone was not just me, Lauren. It was the truth. She whispered, I want my daughter to grow up around that. My granddaughter was born in July. They named her Emma Caroline. I did not expect that. When Ethan called from the hospital, his voice shook. Mom, Lauren wants you here. I stood in my closet holding the phone, looking at the navy dress I had planned to wear to work. Are you sure? She asked for you. When I entered the hospital room, Lauren was pale, sweating, and frightened in a way that stripped every sharp edge from her face. Patricia was not there. That told me something. Lauren reached for my hand. I don't deserve this, she said. No one earns help during labor, I said, they just need it. She cried through a contraction and squeezed my fingers so hard he thought she might break them. For 9 hours, I stayed beside her. Ethan cried openly when Emma arrived. He looked stunned, undone, remade. When the nurse placed that baby in Lauren's arms, I felt the room turn sacred. Then Lauren looked at me. Will you hold your granddaughter? My granddaughter. I laughed through tears. Ethan leaned over us. She has your eyes, Mom. I looked at him. Then teach her to respect what they see. He nodded. I will. And I believed him more than I had expected to. Not completely. Belief, after betrayal, grows slowly. But it had started. Months passed. Bell and Hart grew faster than Marcus and I had planned. Northbridge referred us to 2 more clients. A Financial magazine ran a profile with my photo under the headline, The Quiet Strategist Behind Austin's New Advisory Firm. Ethan framed the article. I told him not to make a big deal out of it. He said, Mom, you made a big deal out of me for 30 years. Sit down. That made Mala. Lauren changed too. Not overnight. People do not become better just because they are embarrassed. But motherhood softened her in some places and strengthened her in others. She went back to work part-time, then later started her own consulting projects from home. She stopped asking Patricia before making decisions. She and Ethan began therapy. Patricia sent a written apology. It was stiff, formal, and probably edited by a lawyer. I did not frame it. But I kept it. Some apologies do not heal the wound, they simply prove the person knows where they cut you. 1 year after the night in the kitchen, Marcus threw a surprise dinner for my 59th birthday. I thought I was meeting him for a client dinner at a restaurant overlooking the river. Instead, I walked into a private room and found friends, clients, old colleagues Ethan, Lauren, baby Emma, and even 3 women from my old firm who had once watched men take credit for my work. There was a banner that read, Happy New Life, Caroline. I rolled my eyes and cried anyway. Marcus gave a short toast about partnership and courage. Lauren thanked me for teaching her that accountability could be painful without being cruel. Then Ethan stood. He held a glass of sparkling water because he was on call. For a second, he looked 16 again. My mother carried me through every version of myself, he said. The grieving kid. The arrogant student. The exhausted resident. The husband who thought providing meant controlling. When I was young, I needed her to be strong. Later, I needed her to seem weak so I could feel strong. And she loved me enough to let me misunderstand her. My eyes filled. He looked at me. The room blurred. I didn't lose my mother, he said. I found her late. But I found her whole. I covered my mouth. Lauren was crying. Marcus looked away. Even one of my former coworkers wiped her eyes with a napkin. After dinner, Ethan brought Emma to me. She's sleepy, he said. I'll take her. I held my granddaughter against my shoulder and walked to the window. Austin glittered outside, full of bridges and headlights and water reflecting the city back to itself. I thought of the old kitchen. I thought of myself upstairs that night, opening my accounts with shaking hands, finally seeing my own life clearly. The real twist of my story was not the money. It was not the penthouse. It was not Patricia's downfall, though I admit that part still gives me a small, wicked satisfaction. The real twist was this. I had spent years thinking love meant staying available to people who had stopped seeing me. But love without respect becomes labor. Family without accountability becomes a cage. And forgiveness without boundaries is just permission with prettier lighting. I did forgive Ethan. Not all at once. Not because he cried. Not because Hugh is my son. I forgave him because he changed his behavior when shame would have been easier. Because he stopped defending the worst thing he had done. Because he learned to introduce me not as my mom who helps us out, but as my mother, Caroline Hart, managing partner at Bell and Hart. That mattered. I forgave Lauren because she broke the inheritance of her mother's cruelty before it reached Emma. That mattered too. I released her. There is a difference. Releasing someone means you stop carrying their poison in your own bloodstream. It does not mean you hand them a key to your house. Patricia sees Emma on holidays. She is polite to me now. Not affectionate. Not redeemed by a montage. Just careful is enough. Later that night, after everyone left, I returned to my penthouse with flowers, gifts, and a sleeping granddaughter in my arms because Ethan and Lauren were staying over in the guest room. My guest room. My terms. I laid Emma in the crib I kept by the window and watched her little chest rise and fall. Then I walked to the antique mirror in the entryway. For years, that mirror had reflected me in Ethan's hallway, carrying groceries, folding blankets, stepping aside, making room. Now it reflected me standing alone in my own home, wearing a black dress, silver hair pinned back, lipstick still perfect after crying. Maybe she had been there all along. Maybe she had been waiting for me to stop apologizing for the space she took up. The next morning, Ethan found me on the balcony with coffee. The city was waking beneath us. He leaned against the railing. "Do you ever miss the old days?" he asked. "Which old days?" "When I was little. Before everything got complicated." I smiled. "Everything was complicated then too. You just had a mother who hid the bills." He looked ashamed, but not crushed by it anymore. "I wish Dad could see you now." A look toward the water. He did see me. Ethan turned. "What do you mean?" "Your father knew exactly who I was. He used to say I could turn a shoebox of receipts into a fortress. He never needed me small." Ethan nodded slowly. "I'm sorry I did." "I know." He was quiet for a while. Then he said, "Emma won't." I looked at him. "No," I said. "She won't." A few weeks later, I took Emma to the lake house for the first time. Ethan and Lauren came too. They had never seen it. I had bought it 9 years earlier under my maiden name and rented it out during peak seasons. It was not huge, but it had a wide porch, old oak trees, and a dock that caught the sunset perfectly. Ethan stood in the doorway, stunned. "You owned this the whole time?" "Yes." Lauren laughed softly. "We really didn't know you at all." "No," I said. "But you're learning." We spent the weekend there. Ethan grilled badly. Lauren burned toast. Emma slept through the best sunset and screamed through breakfast. It was imperfect and noisy and real. On Sunday morning, I found Ethan alone on the dock. He was holding an old photo he had found in one of my albums, Daniel and me in our 30s, standing beside a much younger Ethan at a baseball field. "You gave up so much," he said. "I chose a lot of it." "That doesn't make it fair." "No," I said. "But fairness isn't always available. Dignity is." He looked at me. "Is that what you chose when you left?" "Yes." He nodded. "I'm proud of you." I laughed, surprised by the sweetness of hearing my son say those words to me. "Careful," I said. "I might get used tot hat." "You should." That afternoon, before we drove back, Lauren asked if we could take a family photo on the porch. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want one. Because I knew photos lie easily. They flatten history. They make people believe everyone arrived smiling. But then Emma reached for my necklace with her tiny fist, and Ethan put his arm around Lauren, and Lauren looked at me with a question instead of an assumption. So I stood beside them. Not behind them. Beside them. When the camera timer blinked, I did not make myself smaller. The photo now sits in my office at Bell and Hart. Clients sometimes notice it and say, "Beautiful family." I say, "Yes. We worked hard for it." Because we did. A family isn't proven by blood. It is proven in the moment after harm, when the person who hurt you either demands you forget or chooses to become safe. Ethan chose. Lauren chose. I chose too. I chose not to return to the old kitchen as the woman who could be dismissed. I chose not to confuse being needed with being loved. I chose not to let sacrifice become my only identity. I had been a wife, a widow, a mother, an accountant, a fixer, a shadow, a safety net, a secret. Now I am Caroline Hart. I am 59 years old. I am not starting over. I am continuing from the place where I finally stopped abandoning myself. I will stand up. I will take my name, my money, my mirror, and my life. And I will leave before they finish the sentence.